Good morning, afternoon or evening wherever you are. I'm Paul Clark and welcome to my studio. Now just quickly before we get started, a quick announcement is that there won't be a tutorial for the next 3 weeks as I'm off teaching in La Gomera, the Canary Islands, on an art retreat. I know, it's a tough job, someone's got to do it, but we'll be back with a bang in 2022 with lots of exciting things, including a drawing course, some live streams, and of course lots more watercolour. And don't forget, if you click on my channel link below, there's at least 90 videos there with a wide variety of subjects for you to look at. Okay, so today's tutorial is another one in the series of great artists who've inspired me over the years, and this week it's the work of John Blockley. So come and join me for some step-by-step inspiration. One of the greatest influences on my work has to be that of the artist John Blockley. Now some of you may not have heard of him, but he was a real pioneer in pushing watercolour to another dimension with his experimental landscapes. Now this is one of my heavily influenced versions of one of his lonely bleak cottages. His wonderful watercolour paintings are full of texture with an amazing sense of light. He painted in all media, and this pastel painting is the one that I'm loosely basing this week's tutorial on. He was known for really challenging the rules of traditional watercolour painting, and that's what I love about his work. Never being afraid of trying new techniques, leaving areas of the painting unfinished, experimenting with other media, and really exploring through the whole process, with all the rules there to be broken. Now his daughter Anne has also followed in his footsteps, also producing wonderful experimental landscapes, using a whole variety of media in her paintings. Just fabulous. And on the back of John's book is this quote: "In order to paint the terrain as I see it, blotched, mottled, grainy, I must experiment." And that is what today's lesson is all about. Okay, so for today's material, my paper is some Saunders Waterford 300-pound rough, but any decent watercolour paper will do. My colours today are some yellow ochre, cadmium orange. Now these are two SCHMINCKE super granulating colours. This one is the Tundra pink, which looks a little bit more purple than pink, and the Tundra green. I've also got some burnt sienna, burnt umber, Payne's grey, and some cobalt blue. Brushes today from my series are the 3/4 inch flat, number 12 and number 6 round, and of course my trusty number 3 Rigger, and all the details of these are in the description box below. So here's the drawing. No template today, as it's fairly simple, straight on with no perspective to worry about. Off we go. With my flat brush, I'm simply wetting the sky and then dropping in wet, some yellow ochre and just a touch of cadmium orange. And using the same colour for the reflections here in the puddles. Now this is where you can really experiment with your colour choice. Now I've listed below what I've used, but please use whatever you like. But you must work quickly. That's when all these lovely happy accidents appear, when you let those paints move and blend together. Here I'm using a Winsor Newton watercolour stick and shaving in some granules of paint, but you can use whatever you can find. I don't know, maybe some soot, some coffee granules, who knows. Just have fun and experiment. Here as ever, I'm dropping in a few blobs of clean water to force a few backruns. and of course lots of splattering. Now I'm often asked how I get so accurate with it, and it's just practice really. Have a go on some scrap paper, and you can get pretty good at it. Mind you, you should see the state of my studio wall. Next, into the wet wash, some table salt. Next is some acrylic ink, which can produce some great spidery effects. What I'm doing here is using the sharpened end of my brush to drag out and score some of the texture into the paper. Now I'm treating this side in a very similar fashion, and I don't really have a structured plan as to what I'm going to be doing next. I'm simply relying on instinct and letting it evolve in front of me. Now this is why I find this style of painting quite hard to teach, because half the time I'm not really sure what I am going to be doing next. Now for the wall here, I'm painting in a light wash of Payne's grey. Same on the roof here, but dropping in some of that Tundra pink. So now we need to let this totally dry, so it's a perfect time for a short break. And as it's 10 in the morning, what about a nice cup of herbal tea? Right, now let's get on to the barn. And this is a nice watery mix of yellow ochre and burnt umber, sort of like a tea consistency, maybe a herbal tea consistency. Yeah, let's use that. And the shadow under the roof here with some burnt umber, and generally mixing in colours wet in wet. And I'm using my No.6 brush for this. Now back to my No.12 brush. Just let all those lovely washes blend and mix, and try to paint everything with minimum strokes. Okay, so now the wall has dried, I'm using a little white candle wax on the wall here to act as a resist, and then back in with a darker value of Payne's grey. and the wax you just leave it there. With my spray bottle, I'm just giving a light spray in the sky here near the tree. Now for the trees, and for the main trunk I'm using my No. 12 brush to put in the main branches with a mix of burnt umber and Payne's grey. Swapping over here with my No. 6 brush. Now for the foliage and the canopies. Back with my No. 12 and some of the Tundra green. Again letting all the colours blend together. Splatting and scoring and just generally having fun. Some real dark value Payne's grey here in the corner. And just the same here on this side. So here you can see I've got a bit of an unwanted cauliflower in the sky. Now we can always rectify this. With a damp tissue I'm lightly dabbing and smudging it out. A little more salt into that damp wash. Next to the door here with some cobalt blue, trying to get that illusion of an old peeling wooden door. Another light spray in the sky. Bit more splattering. And then out comes the trusty rigger for some branch details. Now I often refer to this stage of the painting as the ugly period, where nothing really looks right and it's easy to contemplate giving up. But it's really at this later stage when things begin to take shape. So never give up, because it's those final details that usually pull the whole painting together. So for all these little touches I'm just using some Payne's grey.
Oh, you need to wash your hands now. They're filthy.
Sunset slowly dawning. I will see you in the morning, while the world starts slowly sleeping. I just sit here and believe in believing. Sky dresses up in dark blue. The horizon releases the moon, and the stars shine for me and you. And I know that our dreams will come true. Look up at the dark sky, find the truth and forget all lies. After all you need is a smile. Don't say you can't if you haven't tried. Sunset slowly dawning. I will see you in the morning, while the world starts slowly sleeping. I just sit here and believe in believing. I just sit here and believe in believing.
Less is more, remember. Keep all the line work nice and loose and natural. Directional splatting here. Point your brush in the direction you want, about 10mm off the paper, pull the bristles back and get some great texture in the path. White pastel pencil for a few little highlights. And a cream pencil for some details in the trees. scratching out with the magic scalpel for a few very bright sparkles in the puddles. Now finally, with my lovely box of Sennelier soft pastels, a few little details here and there. And this is where the painting really becomes a mixed media one. Now I love using pastels in my watercolour sometimes. You can really pick up the texture of the paper. So let's try a touch of muted purple here. And perhaps some texture in the door. A few little birds with my rigger. And I think we're done. Gosh, the first time using 22. And here, my little tribute to John Blockley. Well, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did, and you'll give it a go. As I said earlier, this week's tutorial is all about experimenting and finding new ways of doing things. As one great philosopher said, those of you who don't walk into new adventures stand still. Wasn't really, I just made that up. Anyway, just relax, have fun, and don't put pressure on yourself to paint a masterpiece every time. It's all part of the learning process. So, please don't forget to do all the usuals, like, subscribe if you haven't already, leave a comment, I do read every one, and of course I look forward to seeing you again in 3 weeks' time. Have a great week, take care everyone, cheers.